The Unfair Advantage by Ali and Hasan Kubba. Ever scrolled through your feed and seen some ridiculously successful person and wondered, seriously, how did they pull that off? Maybe it's some 20-something billionaire staring back at you from a magazine cover, or that person from high school who somehow has their entire life together. And then comes that familiar advice. Just hustle harder, bootstrap yourself, want it enough, and it'll happen. Sounds motivating, right? Sounds fair. But here's the thing. What if that's not the whole story? What if it's actually the biggest myth we've been sold about success? Let me tell you about Evan Spiegel. You know him as the guy who co-founded Snapchat. By 24, he was the youngest self-made billionaire on the planet. Pretty incredible, right? The media loved painting him as proof that a killer idea plus hard work equals success. But Evan himself said something most people glossed over. He actually said, "I am a young, white, educated male. I got really, really lucky, and life isn't fair." Life isn't fair. Think about what he's admitting here. Evan didn't grow up in some cramped apartment. His childhood home was a multi-million-dollar mansion in Los Angeles. Both parents? High-powered lawyers. He attended an exclusive private school alongside future Hollywood A-listers and tech founders. Through family connections, he was meeting Google's former chief executive and YouTube's founder before he even had a real company. Top-tier tutors, elite networks, Stanford education. The guy didn't climb the ladder so much as catch a rocket ship. Now, hearing that might make you think, well, if that's what success requires, what chance do I have? But hold on, that's not where this is going. Because we're about to explore something completely different. Something more real. Today we're diving into a book called The Unfair Advantage, written by two entrepreneurs, Ali and Hasan Kubba, whose backgrounds look nothing like Evan Spiegel's. Ash grew up poor in a rough part of Birmingham in the UK, and eventually became the first marketing director of a company worth over £5 billion. Hasan calls himself a, quote, unnatural entrepreneur who had to figure everything out the hard way. This book has quietly become a kind of secret weapon among a new generation of founders because it completely dismantles the meritocracy myth and replaces it with something way more useful, a practical system for spotting the unique advantages you already have, regardless of where you're starting from. So here's what I'm promising you. By the time we're done, you won't look at your life and see what's missing. Instead, you'll see a unique combination of strengths, circumstances, and assets, your own personal unfair advantages that you can actually use to succeed. You'll understand that the playing field was never level to begin with, and honestly, that realization can be your secret weapon. Let's dive in. If success isn't just about grinding harder, then what's it really about? The authors of The Unfair Advantage argue it's about working smarter, and that starts with taking an honest look at reality. The reality? Life is unfair. We're constantly bombarded with meritocracy stories, this idea that people who deserve success get it. That if we just hustle like Elon or wake up at 4 in the morning like the productivity gurus preach, we'll achieve our dreams. The authors? They call that straight-up nonsense. They've watched tons of hardworking, passionate founders crash and burn. Why? Because success doesn't go to the hardest workers. It goes to those who identify and leverage their unfair advantages. So what exactly is an unfair advantage? Nothing illegal or sketchy. An unfair advantage is simply a condition, asset, or circumstance that gives you a leg up. The authors use a sports analogy. Being tall is a massive unfair advantage in basketball. A shorter player can work incredibly hard, but they're fighting an uphill battle. Does that mean short players can't go pro? No. But it's going to be way harder. Business isn't a physical sport, but similar dynamics apply. The key insight, though, is that these advantages aren't just about being born rich or privileged. Anyone can have them, and that's the empowering core of this whole book. Your unique set of unfair advantages can't be easily copied or bought. They're uniquely yours. To prove this, the authors share their own deeply personal stories, which are worlds away from Evan Spiegel's rocket ship trajectory. Take Ash Ellie. He grew up in a poor immigrant family in a tough Birmingham neighborhood. No entrepreneurial role models. He dropped out of college twice, not from Harvard, but from local sixth-form college at 17. By conventional standards, he was headed nowhere. He ended up working retail at an office supply store called Staples. But here's where small, seemingly random advantages started lining up. At Staples, he was surrounded by computers and internet books, right as the dot-com boom was taking off. He became obsessed. While his friends attended university, Ash spent nights in his parents' attic teaching himself to code from books he'd read during work breaks. Then another lucky break. A friend's parents owned a shoe warehouse. Together, they had this wild idea to build a website selling shoes online. This was 1998. Amazon had just entered the UK selling only books. Everyone said nobody would buy shoes online, but they were young and naive enough to ignore the doubters. This little attic project built on a cheap computer got nominated for an Internet Award. Suddenly, London companies were calling this self-taught kid who somehow understood this new internet thing. Ash moved to London with just a backpack and got hired on the spot. Here he was, a teenager managing people in their 20s and 30s, drowning in imposter syndrome. Then the dot-com bubble burst. He got laid off and had to move back home, feeling like a complete failure. But in that failure came an epiphany. He realized his success hadn't been purely about hard work. It was luck. Lucky to work at Staples, lucky to have that friend's family business, lucky to be positioned to gain a rare, valuable skill at exactly the right moment. He realized his expertise itself was his unfair advantage. This realization changed everything. He rebuilt his career, eventually becoming the first marketing director for a tiny Danish startup trying to enter the UK market. The idea sounded ridiculous to his colleagues, and online takeaway website. That startup was Just Eat. Years later, it went public, valued at £1.5 billion, giving Ash true financial freedom. His co-author, Hasan Kubba, has a completely different story. He calls himself an unnatural entrepreneur. He wasn't that kid with lemonade stands and money-making schemes. Born in Baghdad, his family moved to London when he was young. Smart kid, on track to fulfill the immigrant parent dream of becoming a doctor. But he dropped out because his heart wasn't in it. He was lost. After getting an economics degree, he felt directionless. Banking didn't appeal to him. He was living at home, feeling the pressure to figure things out. One day, he saw an ad for an online course about starting a business. Expensive, a few $1,000s, but he took the risk. He wanted passive income and freedom to be his own boss. But fear and perfectionism paralyzed him, too afraid to launch. So he got a sales job instead, just to learn skills he knew he lacked. There, watching working-class kids with natural charm close deals, he learned about a different kind of intelligence, social and emotional intelligence. That was their unfair advantage. Armed with this new skill, he finally quit and, with an accountability partner's help, landed his first client. It took 2 years of what he calls growth scrapping to build a profitable digital marketing agency that let him travel the world. It wasn't until he was on a beach in Indonesia that he had his own epiphany, like Ash's. He saw a little girl in the Philippines begging for a sip of his bottled water, and it shattered him. In that moment, he understood his own unfair advantages. The luck of his parents moving to London, the stability of his upbringing, the education he received, the money to invest in that first course, the family connections that led to early clients. It wasn't just him. So much of his success came from advantages he'd been given. These two stories are the heart of the book. They show us that unfair advantages aren't just for people like Evan Spiegel. They can emerge from struggle, from being an outsider, from being unnatural. The key isn't whether you have them, but whether you can see them. And to help us see them, the authors created a powerful tool called the Miles Framework. Miles is an acronym for 5 categories of unfair advantages: money, intelligence and insight, location and luck, education and expertise, and status. All of these rest on one crucial foundation: mindset. Let's start with that foundation, because it's the one thing you control most. M is for mindset. The authors argue that mindset is the soil where all your advantages grow. But they add a twist to the popular growth mindset idea from psychologist Carol Dweck. A growth mindset is believing you can improve your abilities through effort. I can't do this yet. Super powerful, but the authors say it's not enough. You can't just say, I'm not a trillionaire yet. That ignores reality. So they propose a reality growth mindset. This means holding 2 opposing ideas simultaneously. First, accept the hard limits of reality. Life is unfair, luck exists, some people start with massive advantages. Accept this without becoming a victim. Second, believe you're the master of your own future. You can achieve incredible things through effort and strategy. It's about keeping your feet on the ground while your head's in the clouds. Balancing self-awareness with self-belief. This mindset lets you set ambitious but achievable goals. Instead of aiming for the Forbes cover tomorrow, aim to create a company that makes its first real profit. This realistic, grounded ambition is the starting point for everything. With that foundation, let's build the pillars of the Miles Framework. The first M is for money. This is the most obvious unfair advantage. Like the old saying goes, it takes money to make money. Money provides a safety net. It lets you take risks. In startups, money gives you runway, time before your business runs out of cash. Ewan Blair, son of former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair, started a tech company. First year, it lost around £400,000. But luckily, he received an almost £600,000 interest-free capital contribution that saved the business. Source unnamed, but it highlights the power of the bank of mom and dad. But here's the twist. Not having money can also be an advantage. Ash didn't have money, so he had to go all in, nothing to lose. That made him hungry, creative, resourceful. Too much money can make you complacent. You might try solving problems by throwing money at them, instead of through clever, scrappy innovation. Financial constraints breed creativity. Necessity really is the mother of invention. So if you don't have money, focus on a business that doesn't need much to start. Get paying customers fast. This forces a discipline many well-funded startups lack. Next I is for intelligence and insight. This isn't just about having a high IQ or being book smart. The authors break it into key areas. There's book smarts, theoretical knowledge from school. The founders of payments companies Stripe, Patrick and John Collison, are perfect examples. Child prodigies in programming, aced exams, got into Harvard and MIT. Their incredible intelligence was their core advantage. But then there's street smarts, what the authors call people skills, social and emotional intelligence. Reading people, negotiating, building relationships, detecting when someone's trying to take advantage of you. The book tells the tragic story of Nikola Tesla, one of history's most brilliant inventors, who died almost penniless because he lacked street smarts to navigate business. People like Thomas Edison repeatedly took advantage of him. His story powerfully reminds us that in business, people skills can trump raw genius. Then there's creative intelligence, connecting dots from different fields. Steve Jobs famously took a calligraphy class in college. Seemed useless then, but he later applied those beautiful typography principles to the first Macintosh, giving Apple a huge design advantage. But the most important part of this pillar is insight. Seeing a problem others have missed. Finding a market gap. The best way to get insight? Talk to customers. Better yet, be the customer yourself. This is called scratching your own itch. Tristan Walker is a perfect example. He grew up in the projects in Queens and worked his way to Stanford and Silicon Valley. He wanted to start a big company, but his breakthrough came from personal frustration. As an African-American man, he struggled with razor burn from standard multi-blade razors. He realized an entire demographic with coarse, curly hair was being ignored by major shaving companies. That was his unique insight. He was the target customer. That insight led to Walker & Company, eventually acquired by Procter & Gamble for millions. His disadvantage, being an outsider in Silicon Valley, gave him an insight nobody else had. L is for location and luck. This pillar is about being in the right place at the right time. Location is incredibly powerful. Think about Silicon Valley. Why are so many tech giants, Google, Apple, Facebook, in one small area? It's called clustering. Being there gives you access to Stanford talent, investors on Sand Hill Road, and knowledge spillover, where ideas spread informally between companies. Ash had to move from Birmingham to London for his big break at Just Eat. Location puts you in opportunity's path, but location can be strategic in other ways. Huda Kattan, the Iraqi-American founder of billion-dollar Huda Beauty, started as a makeup artist in Los Angeles. But her key move was relocating to Dubai. She realized her Middle Eastern look and makeup style would resonate more in that market. She moved to where her audience was, and her brand exploded. Then there's luck. The authors are clear. Luck is a massive success factor. But they also believe you can increase your luck. Psychologist Richard Wiseman studied lucky and unlucky people and found lucky people share 4 principles. 1. They maximize chance opportunities, more open, observant, willing to talk to new people. 2. They trust their intuition and gut feelings. 3. They expect good fortune. Positive expectations become self-fulfilling prophecies. 4. They turn bad luck into good, seeing setbacks as learning opportunities. The authors add a 5th. Take more action. The more you do show up, put out into the world, the more chances you give luck to find you, like rolling dice. Roll once, your chances of double sixes are low, but roll repeatedly, you'll eventually get it. And there's timing. Research shows timing is the single biggest factor in startup success, more important than idea, team, or funding. You can be too early, like first cloud storage startups that failed because internet connections were too slow, or too late, entering a saturated market. The sweet spot is a small but growing market, riding a new technological or societal wave. Just Eat was perfectly timed with smartphones. Snapchat with the selfie generation. E is for education and expertise. This isn't just about university degrees, though the authors acknowledge elite education from Stanford or Harvard provides powerful advantages in knowledge, network, and signaling. It's a status booster. Google founders Larry Page and Sergey Brin would never have created their search engine without being computer science PhD students at Stanford. Their deep technical education was their unfair advantage. But education doesn't stop at school. The other side is expertise, self-taught knowledge, what you learn by doing. Ash developed his expertise not in a classroom, but in his attic, building a real website. This is often the most powerful knowledge because it's tested in the real world. You can develop expertise through books, online courses, mentors, but most importantly by practicing. If you don't have money, developing valuable expertise can be your ticket to freedom, a way to create your own unfair advantage from scratch. And finally, S is for status. Status is your personal brand, how others see you. It includes social standing, network, appearance, perceived credibility. Outer status is things like job title, company you work for, university you attended. Why news articles say ex-Googler starts new company. It's credibility shorthand. But it also includes things we can't control: age, gender, race, accent. The book is brutally honest about this. The world is full of unconscious bias. A young, white, male Harvard dropout is more likely to get funding than others. That's reality. But again, double-edged sword. being an outsider can be powerful. It can give you unique insight. Sarah Blakely, billionaire founder of Spanx, is a fantastic example. She was a woman breaking into male-dominated manufacturing and venture capital worlds. Rejected over and over. But her status as a woman was also her greatest strength. She had an insight no man could have. She hated how pantyhose looked and felt, but liked the control top. One day she cut the feet off to wear under white pants, and Spanx was born. She solved a problem she personally experienced as a woman. Her outsider status gave her $1 billion insight. Then there's inner status, self-esteem, confidence. How you see yourself powerfully affects how others see you. Walk into a room believing you belong, people feel it. This is where you battle imposter syndrome, that feeling you're a fraud about to be exposed. The book reminds us, almost everyone feels this, even the most successful. The key is pushing through it. Kylie Jenner's story is a fascinating status case study. She was born with immense inherited status, fame, money, massive platform from her family's reality show. But her billion-dollar company, Kylie Cosmetics, was also born from personal insecurity, thin lips. This insecurity resonated with millions of young fans. She turned inherited status and personal vulnerability into a business empire by creating a product addressing a shared insecurity. So that's the Miles framework. Money, intelligence and insight, location and luck, education and expertise, and status, all built on a reality growth mindset foundation. You don't need all of them. In fact, nobody has them all. The key is auditing yourself. Understand which ones you have and which you need. Then partner with people who have advantages you lack. If you're the visionary with insight, find a technical co-founder with expertise. If you're great at building but not selling, find a partner with street smarts and network. A great founding team is a blend of complementary, unfair advantages. The book then gives a quick start guide to building your business, but the core principles are simple. First, know your why. What motivates you? Escaping pain or gaining reward? Define success on your own terms, not by society's flashy symbols. Next, decide on startup type. Lifestyle business, designed for good income and freedom, like Hasan's agency, or hypergrowth startup, designed to scale massively and change an industry, like Just Eat. Your unfair advantages will help you decide. Without lots of money or connections, a lifestyle business is safer and more realistic. Then, find your idea. But remember, ideas are overrated. Execution matters. Start with a problem, not a solution. The best ideas come from finding pain points, inconveniences, things that annoy people. Build a minimum viable product, the simplest, most basic version solving the core problem. If you're not a little embarrassed by your first version, you launched too late. The goal is getting it into real customers, hands fast, so you can get feedback and iterate. Finally, get your first customers through growth scrapping. This is unglamorous, manual work finding customers one by one. Do things that don't scale. Send personalized emails. Meet people face to face. Give amazing customer service. This builds your foundation. Only after proving people love your product should you think about growth hacking and scaling. The entrepreneurship journey is hard, full of uncertainty and risk, but by understanding the world's reality and honestly assessing your unique unfair advantages, you stack the deck in your favor. You stop playing a rigged game and start playing your own game by your own rules. When you finish a book like The Unfair Advantage, it's easy to feel one of two things, either discouraged by life's randomness or incredibly empowered. I believe the true lesson is the latter. Its greatest gift isn't business tactics. It's a profound call for self-awareness. For so long, we've been fed this simple, almost childlike story that if you just work hard, everything will be okay. When it's not, we blame ourselves. We think we weren't disciplined enough, smart enough, resilient enough. This book gives us permission to let go of that guilt. It tells us the system is complex, luck is real, and birth circumstances. The ovarian lottery, as Warren Buffett calls it, play a huge role. But it doesn't leave us there in passive acceptance. Instead, it hands us a map and compass. The Miles framework is that map. It forces you to stop looking at what others have and start taking inventory of your own life. What are your assets? Maybe you don't have money, but you have unique insight from your community. Maybe you don't have fancy education, but you have street smarts and ability to connect with anyone. Maybe you feel like an outsider, but that outsider status gives you a perspective nobody else has. This is a radical thinking shift. It moves you from scarcity mindset to abundance. You realize you're not starting from zero. You're starting with a unique combination of advantages nobody else on earth possesses. Your job is simply identifying them, owning them, and building on them. So how can you start applying this today? I want to give you 3 simple actions. First, conduct your own Miles audit. Right now, grab paper and write down the letters M-I-L-E-S. Under each one, honestly list what you have. For money, maybe just a few $100s in savings, or ability to live rent-free at home. For insight, maybe a frustration with a product you use daily. For status, maybe you're part of a specific subculture, gamers, artists, athletes, giving you credibility in that world. Don't judge what you write. Just get it on paper. This is your starting point. Second, identify your biggest double-edged sword. What's the one thing you've always considered a disadvantage? Maybe you're an introvert. Maybe you're from a small town. Maybe you didn't attend a top university. Now ask yourself, how could this be a strength? How could your introversion make you a better listener and more thoughtful product builder? How could your small-town background give you insight into an underserved market? Reframe your perceived weakness as a potential unfair advantage. Third, take one small action that increases your luck. Remember, luck isn't just passive. You can create it. Send an email to one person you admire, not asking for anything, but offering to help them with something small. Go to one local meetup or online event in a field you're curious about. Share one idea on social media. Action creates serendipity. It puts you in opportunity's path. The Unfair Advantage is more than a business book. It's a manual for navigating an unfair world with grace, strategy, and self-belief. It teaches you that the most powerful starting point isn't a brilliant idea or pile of cash, but deep, honest self-understanding. That was a summary of The Unfair Advantage by Ali and Hasan Kubba. We've journeyed through the core ideas today, but a summary is like looking at a map of a beautiful country. It shows you layout, key cities, major roads, but can never replace actually walking those streets, smelling the air, meeting the people. The real magic of this book is in the stories and subtle perspective shifts that happen when you read it yourself. This summary is your map, designed to help you decide if this is a journey you want to take. If anything we've talked about today sparked something in you, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just learning. It's an experience that can fundamentally change how you see your own potential. Also, if you found this summary valuable and it gave you a new way to think, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. It tells us we're on the right track and ensures you won't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and growing together.